Woman pretends to be rich to go on a date with a millionaire without knowing that he is her boss. Mari, a hardworking woman secretly in love with her colleague, discovers he's already taken. Heartbroken, she ends up on a blind date pretending to be her wealthy friend Claudia, only to meet Eduardo, the CEO of her company. Eduardo, pressured by his father to find a wife, decides Mari, as Claudia, is the perfect match. But what happens when Eduardo discovers Mari's true identity? In a twist of fate, a deception meant to end quickly spirals into an unexpected journey of love and redemption. Join us as we unravel this tale of mistaken identities, deep connections, and the surprising strength of true love. Mari had been secretly in love with her colleague for a long time. She admired him from afar, cherishing every moment they worked together. But her world came crashing down when she discovered he had a girlfriend. The news left her heartbroken and depressed, her dreams shattered. In need of a confidant, Mari turned to her best friend, Claudia, a young woman from a wealthy background. Claudia was always full of wild ideas and never hesitated to help Mari when she was feeling low. They met at a cozy cafe, where Mari poured out her heart, expressing her sadness and frustration. Claudia listened attentively, then suddenly had an idea. "Why don't you do something completely different? Get your mind off things. I have an idea that might sound crazy, but hear me out." Mari looked at her friend curiously. "What do you have in mind?" Claudia grinned. "I have a blind date set up for tomorrow, but I don't really want to go. What if you went in my place? Just for fun. It could be a good distraction." Mari was hesitant. "Pretend to be you? What if they find out?" "Oh, come on," Claudia insisted. "It's just one date. What's the worst that could happen? You might even enjoy it." After some persuasion, Mari agreed. It seemed harmless enough, and she desperately needed something to take her mind off her heartbreak. Claudia gave her all the details, including the name of the man she was supposed to meet, Eduardo. Mari didn't think much of it until she arrived at the high-end restaurant. As she waited nervously at the table, she nearly fell off her chair when Eduardo walked in. Eduardo was not just any man. He was the CEO of the company where she worked, a man known for his stern demeanor and relentless work ethic. He was there due to pressure from his father, the founder of their successful car company, to settle down and marry. Eduardo approached the table, his expression unreadable. "You must be Claudia," he said, extending his hand. Mari, taken aback but determined to play along, shook his hand and smiled nervously. "Yes, I am. It's nice to meet you, Eduardo." Throughout the evening, Mari tried to make Eduardo lose interest in her by being aloof and uninterested. However, Eduardo was unfazed. He was on a mission to find a wife quickly, so he could focus entirely on his career without his father's constant nagging. He found Mari's, or rather, Claudia's, straightforward attitude refreshing. To Mari's dismay, Eduardo was intrigued by her. He decided that she was the perfect candidate for his plan. Mari realized that her attempt to sabotage the date had backfired spectacularly. Eduardo wanted to see her again, and Mari found herself caught in a web of her own making. As she left the restaurant, Eduardo called out to her. "Claudia, I enjoyed our evening. Let's meet again soon." Mari nodded, her mind racing. How was she going to get out of this mess? She had to continue pretending to be Claudia while avoiding Eduardo at work. This was only the beginning of a series of complicated and unexpected events that would change her life forever. Mari couldn't believe she was sitting across from Eduardo, the CEO of the company where she worked. Pretending to be Claudia had seemed like a harmless idea, but now she was face to face with the most powerful man in the company. Eduardo was known for his intensity and dedication to work, not for going on blind dates. As they exchanged pleasantries, Mari tried to mask her nervousness. Eduardo was calm, his piercing eyes studying her every move. She decided to be aloof, hoping he would lose interest. But Eduardo found her directness and apparent indifference intriguing. He wasn't used to people treating him like just another person, and Mari's act was unexpectedly refreshing. "So, Claudia," Eduardo began, his voice steady, "what do you do for fun?" Mari, thinking quickly, remembered Claudia's interests. "I enjoy art and travel. I like to explore new places and experience different cultures." Eduardo nodded, clearly interested. That sounds fascinating. I've always wanted to travel more, but work keeps me grounded. Throughout the dinner, Mari continued to play the role of Claudia, sharing anecdotes and stories she had heard from her friend. Eduardo seemed genuinely engaged, and Mari couldn't help but notice the softer side of him, a stark contrast to his stern professional persona. As the evening progressed, Eduardo revealed more about himself than Mari had expected. He talked about the pressures of running a successful company and the expectations placed on him by his father. He confessed that he was only on this blind date because of his father's insistence that he settle down. "I need someone who understands my world and can stand by my side without getting lost in it," Eduardo said, his gaze intense. "I'm not looking for a whirlwind romance. I need a partner, someone dependable." Mari's heart raced. She hadn't anticipated this level of honesty. She realized that Eduardo wasn't just a workaholic. He was a man burdened by immense responsibilities, looking for stability in his personal life. By the end of the evening, Eduardo was convinced he had found someone special. "Claudia, I'd like to see you again," he said, his tone sincere. "This evening has been a pleasant surprise." Mari forced a smile, her mind spinning. "Sure, Eduardo. Let's do this again." As she walked away from the restaurant, Mari felt a mix of emotions. She had managed to keep up the charade, but now Eduardo wanted to see her again. How long could she keep pretending to be Claudia? And why did she feel a strange sense of excitement at the thought of seeing him again? The following days at work were nerve-wracking. Mari did her best to avoid Eduardo, but fate seemed determined to throw them together. She found herself in meetings with him, their eyes occasionally locking across the room. Each encounter made her heart pound, and she couldn't deny the growing attraction she felt. One afternoon, Eduardo caught her in the hallway. "Claudia, I've been thinking about our next date. How about dinner this Friday?" Mari hesitated, but she couldn't bring herself to say no. "Of course, Eduardo. I'll see you then." As she walked away, she knew she was in too deep. She had to continue the ruse, but the lines between her real self and the persona of Claudia were blurring. The next date could either deepen their connection or unravel the entire facade, and Mari wasn't sure which outcome scared her more. Mari's double life was becoming increasingly complicated. By day, she was herself, a diligent employee at the cosmetics company, doing her best to stay under Eduardo's radar. By night, she was Claudia, the intriguing woman who had captured Eduardo's attention. Every encounter with him was a delicate dance of half-truths and guarded emotions. Their second date was even more challenging. Eduardo had arranged a private dinner at an upscale restaurant, determined to get to know Claudia better. Mari felt the weight of her deception but couldn't back out now. As they dined, Eduardo shared more about his life, his dreams, and his vision for the company. Mari found herself genuinely captivated by his passion and commitment. "What about you, Claudia?" Eduardo asked, his eyes searching hers. "What are your dreams?" Mari hesitated, crafting her response carefully. "I want to travel more, maybe start a foundation to help children in need. I've always believed in giving back." Eduardo smiled, clearly impressed. "You're a remarkable woman, Claudia. I feel like I've known you for much longer than a few weeks." Mari's heart ached with guilt. She was falling for Eduardo, but their relationship was built on a lie. She knew she had to end it, but every time she tried, she found herself drawn deeper into his world. Eduardo's sincerity and vulnerability made it impossible for her to walk away. As weeks turned into months, maintaining the facade became increasingly difficult. Eduardo began inviting Claudia to company events, and Mari had to juggle her work responsibilities with her secret life. She lived in constant fear of being discovered, her anxiety growing with each passing day. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, Mari confided in Claudia. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. I'm lying to Eduardo, and it's tearing me apart. I'm in love with him, but he doesn't even know who I really am." Claudia sighed, placing a comforting hand on Mari's shoulder. "You have to tell him the truth, Mari. If he truly cares for you, he'll understand. And if he doesn't, then he's not the man you think he is." Encouraged by her friend's words, Mari resolved to come clean. She couldn't continue living a lie, no matter how much she feared losing Eduardo. She arranged to meet him at a quiet cafe, her heart pounding with anxiety. "Eduardo, there's something I need to tell you," Mari began, her voice trembling. "I haven't been honest with you." Eduardo looked at her with concern. "What is it, Claudia?" Mari took a deep breath. "My name isn't Claudia. I'm Mari, one of your employees. Claudia is my friend, and I've been pretending to be her because I didn't think you'd be interested in someone like me." Eduardo's eyes widened with shock. "Mari? I don't understand. Why would you do this?" Tears welled up in Mari's eyes. "I never meant for it to go this far. I was just trying to help Claudia, but then I met you, and I fell for you. I didn't know how to stop." For a moment, Eduardo was silent, processing the revelation. Mari braced herself for anger, for rejection, but then, to her surprise, he reached across the table and took her hand. "Mari, I'm hurt that you lied to me, but I can't deny what I feel for you. You're the woman I've come to care for, not the name you used. It's going to take time to rebuild the trust, but I want to try." Mari's heart soared with hope. "I'm so sorry, Eduardo. I promise, no more lies." Eduardo nodded, his expression softening. "No more lies. Let's start over, Mari. From the beginning, with the truth." And so, with honesty and vulnerability, they began to rebuild their relationship, facing the future together, determined to overcome the obstacles that lay ahead. Eduardo had always prided himself on his keen instincts, but Mari's deception had slipped right under his radar. After Mari's confession, he couldn't shake the mixture of betrayal and admiration he felt. She had managed to keep up the facade for so long, showing both bravery and desperation. He knew they needed time to rebuild trust, but he also knew he didn't want to lose her. Eduardo decided to take things slowly, giving them both space to process everything. They continued to see each other, now with Mari as herself, no longer hiding behind Claudia's name. Eduardo saw a new side of Mari, the real Mari. She was intelligent, hardworking, and genuinely caring. He found himself falling for her all over again, this time with open eyes. However, the truth was hard to keep under wraps in a large company. Whispers and rumors spread, and it wasn't long before Eduardo's father heard about the scandal. He called Eduardo into his office, his face a mask of disapproval. "Is it true? You've been seeing an employee who pretended to be someone else?" his father demanded. Eduardo stood his ground. "Yes, it's true, but it's more complicated than that. Mari is an incredible person, and she only pretended to be Claudia to help her friend." His father shook his head. "This kind of behavior is unacceptable, Eduardo. You need to end this relationship. It's bad for business and your reputation." Eduardo felt a surge of anger. "I won't end it. Mari made a mistake, but she owned up to it. She's honest and hardworking, and I love her. If you can't see past this, then maybe it's you who needs to reconsider your priorities." His father was stunned into silence. Eduardo had never spoken to him this way before. The confrontation left Eduardo feeling both empowered and anxious about the future. Meanwhile, Mari faced her own challenges at work. Her colleagues looked at her with a mix of curiosity and judgment. She kept her head down, focusing on her job, but the weight of their stares was hard to bear. One afternoon, she overheard a conversation between two co-workers. "I can't believe she deceived Eduardo like that. She's lucky she still has a job," one said. "She must have some nerve to show her face here," the other replied. Mari's heart sank. She knew regaining their trust would be a long and difficult process, but she was determined to prove herself, not just to Eduardo, but to everyone. Eduardo noticed the strain Mari was under and decided to take action. He called a company-wide meeting and stood before his employees with Mari by his side. "I have something important to say," Eduardo began, his voice steady. "Mari made a mistake, but she's more than made up for it with her honesty and dedication. I stand by her, and I ask that you do the same. We all make mistakes, but it's how we handle them that defines us. Mari is an asset to this company, and she has my full support." The room was silent for a moment before a few employees began to clap. Slowly, the applause grew, and Mari felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Eduardo's public support meant everything to her. In the following weeks, Mari and Eduardo's relationship continued to strengthen. They spent more time together outside of work, getting to know each other on a deeper level. Eduardo introduced Mari to his family properly, and despite initial reservations, they began to see what Eduardo saw in her. One evening, as they walked through a park hand in hand, Eduardo stopped and turned to Mari. "I want to ask you something." Mari looked at him, her heart racing. "What is it?" Eduardo took a deep breath. "I've seen you at your worst and at your best, and I love every part of you. Will you marry me, Mari?" Tears filled Mari's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Eduardo. 1,000 times yes." Their wedding was a beautiful, intimate affair, filled with family, friends, and colleagues who had come to respect and admire their journey. As they exchanged vows, Eduardo and Mari knew that their love, tested by lies and strengthened by truth, was destined to last a lifetime.